Merry Christmas, my friends, and happy holidays to you all. And in today's video, I'll be building and brush painting the Soviet BA-10 combat car in 1 to 100 scale by Zvezda. And as you can see, it also comes with other little 1 to 100 kits that, well, you can see on the kit box. And of course, this kit was so simple and easy to build that even on the top right of the box, you may have seen in white that they noted that you can even build this kit in only snap fit without having to use any liquid cement, which is true, but I eventually use a liquid cement just to be sure it gets a nice hold firm base when constructed, and obviously to use it for removing some excess plastic dust, mold lines, or maybe some slight flash on the sides of the turret you may see. But all in all, this kit is so nice. I highly recommend it to anyone, and especially for anyone who's a fan of very small model kits. But you can even see the very nicely detailed rivets and tires, the panel lines that we can all eventually accentuate later on with our washes, and really it'll look very nice in the end. Now, having the absolute caveman brain that I have, I struggled here for a little bit, even despite looking at the instructions and how I was supposed to fit together this part. But here you can see that you want the machine gun to be placed to the hole first, and then you could snap it together, but be sure you hold it in place and then place it onto the sprue holder so that it can hold together tightly. But I eventually here had to add some liquid cement as I again struggled to try and apply it on and fit together, but I don't think it was the kid's fault. I simply think it was just my mistake. For the tires, I had to make sure that I had the correction of the inner wheels to be on the inside and the outer wheels with the rivet details to be on, of course, the outside, so they could see them visibly, and just so I don't make the same mistake of trying to put it on backwards, of course. And one you saw there just flew away from me, and no, it's not gone forever, nor did it take me 2 hours to find it, but all I did is just fit it on. As you can see, you can even snap fit together, but of course I made sure it was held down nicely with the liquid cement, and really I think there's no way you can screw this up without having to not look at the instructions. But all the wheels are the same, and it's very easy, simple, and short to follow. Now, of course, I'll be priming my model in my favorite AK Black primer, which is suitable for airbrushing and for brush painting cases. And here you can see that first, if you're building or painting this kit, you want to remove the turret and paint it separately. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting gunked up, ugly looking paint underneath the turret, and it'll build up, and you won't even be able to move the turret, which I found out the hard way. So I recommend that you paint it on in thin layers and keep the turret off, and you want to nicely keep those details. Now, as you saw there, those 5 paints that I used from Vallejo will be very nice for helping our stages of using. First here, you see me using mixed together in equal parts, or maybe even a little bit lighter, with Russian uniform World War II and the pure, pretty much just plain white color. It can really just be a white gray or any white light color to make this very light, which will greatly help us paint on to the model, and we can tone it down even later. Making sure that the water isn't too runny and that it doesn't pool in excess areas. You see I'm being very minimal and very thin in consecutive layers. Building it randomly, and I'm not really again creating highlights, just like how I did the same technique with my IS-7. And really, it's so fun, easy, and simple that anyone can do it, and even such as someone myself can do this with basically turning off my brain and relaxing to the technique. Now I'll be trying something for my first time, or I guess you can count it as my second time of using this hairspray product, Tresame, and you actually may recognize this product from Panzermeister from when he used it from one of his videos on how you can use this product or hairspray product for chipping, and you can see that I'm applying it from a good distance away and keeping it in nice thin layers, as even when it looks like you're pulling on too much and you think you've ruined the model, which I thought I did for a second, it actually didn't, and it'll do a nice job of removing that excess onto a whitewash that you can see I'm applying on. And really, the mistake I made here, and don't do as I did, is I actually applied it on unthinned, as I completely thought that I could just have it nicely strip off with ease, as it did eventually when I applied it on the water, but it made it so much harder that it only gave me big ugly clumps and really not the kind of chipping I was looking for. But we can always go back and re-add on the winter whitewash, of course. But again, thin layers with the winter whitewash, as you saw there, using ivory, and that was Tamiya flat base to make sure that the paint dried ultra matte. Matter than any matte paint that you've seen, pretty much. It's what Tamiya uses within their paints, I'm pretty sure, as well. But you can see it does a nice job of removing it from the edges and removing all that excess that we don't want. Remember, it has more wear and tear on the horizontal surfaces than on the vertical, but that's entirely up to you. And now you can see that I've used my Tamiya soap acrylic wash, which will nicely try and reach those deep crevices and small rivet details, bringing them and making them pop to our eye, and of course using a black and flat brown from Viejo just for that nice matte finish, specifically with those two paints. Now I'll be using flat red from Viejo, if it wasn't already obvious enough, to use for the Red Star Soviet markings, and also I try on later the Cyrillic, Russian language, of course, to apply on as inscriptions on both sides of the turret. And here you see it's actually fairly simple to create just a little star without having to use any decals. And I highly recommend that you practice and try this out, as eventually it's very satisfying, and I was very happy with the overall result. And now you see me here fail miserably trying to paint hand paint Cyrillic for my first time, and I even took the risk of not using any paint retarder, which, if this is your first time trying to paint any inscriptions, I recommend that you use some paint retarder, as that even if you screw up, that you can even remove it with just a little bit of water when you think you haven't done a very good job. And like in this case here, I painted it on too thick and like bold lettering basically, and even using my Citadel my sable brush so I can have more time to work with the paint. But I wasn't overall satisfied with the result, so off camera I eventually had to hand paint the inscriptions, as it didn't make it easier to have a camera right in front of your face and trying to paint such little intricate letters here, of course, even when they're nice and big like that. But here I'm going to show you actually how I made an adorable little snowman from this spackle, which spackle is acrylic white putty that you can easily mold and shape together like you're working with clay, or with like the milliput that I also eventually used later on in this video. But here I'm just showing you how I stuck 2 little twigs, very thin and small, into his sides, and I even paint on his face and his black buttons at the front, even giving him a nice little orange nose to finish it off. To make the orange brown you see there, to look more like a nice bright vibrant orange, I mixed in some yellow for his carrot nose, which really it's actually made out of the very tip end of a toothpick, which I cut down, of course, and super glued it to his head, and it actually looks quite nice in my opinion. But of course, you may have seen this in my last video. For the headlights, I'm using the liquid chrome mirror effect, as it of course looks like chrome, and this looks super ultra realistic. And again, this is probably one of my favorite products I've had to use. Now for the weathering, I used this exhausted burnt umber, which really came out of a burned set from Life Color, and really it just works as our mud and dirt and grime to build up. Or really, you can even use the dark brown wash we used earlier for just that nice dark mud effect. But here I just wanted it a little bit more of a mid-tone, and we'll apply it on with a sponge, even try to blend it on the lower sides, trying to keep it minimal. But yeah, really I don't want this model to be completely heavily weathered. And as you can see here, I'm just applying it on randomly in a quick, easy, fun succession. And then I now use this dark Prussian blue color to give us a nice, very subtle filter effect on the model, just to make it look like it's in a nice, cool, cold environment, of course. And if you want to tone down those very sharp and vibrant red inscriptions and markings, like on the sides of the turret and hull, you can add on a little bit of the previous thin winter whitewash that we applied on earlier, and really don't want to cover it up too much, of course. Just apply it on in thin layers, and it'll just tone down the strong effect. And if you didn't know what the inscriptions meant, the one on right here I'm showing you now means snow leopard, and the one on the other side means for motherland. And no, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, because I would probably butcher it, and I don't even really know how to. So I apologize. But for the last final effect for the Soviet combat car, I apply on that same acrylic putty from Spackle, just as it works as very nice snow. Now, of course, you can still use this for larger models, but I think you want to use more of a sparkly effect product like AK Interactive's snow balloons, which, well, it'll actually make it look like real snow. For the final last little bit of detail for the model, I created and sculpted this little Santa hat for the combat car out of milliput. And really, milliput is very helpful when sculpting anything you want, especially like a little Christmas Santa hat on the combat car, as I even made one for the little snowman as well. And it is very satisfying to manipulate and sculpt as well as to paint. But all in all, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. And if you made it this far, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, as I hope you get plenty of gifts and words of models or maybe other related hobby items, or even not related to our hobby. Is really, I can't thank you all so much for the end this year, as I really hope to grow and share with you all more of my models as you join me on this brush painting adventure. Thank you all, and I will see you all next time.